everyone, it's Lisa from budgetequestrian.com, and first I have to apologize for not putting a video out yesterday, which was Friday. I've been trying really hard to get a video out every single day after my giveaway for at least the next 30 days. It's a little challenging to do, especially when I work full-time, and on Thursday night we had a snowstorm roll through which kind of messed up everything, and my 45-minute commute home took me 3.5 hours to get home because of accidents and really icy driving conditions. It wasn't very much fun, but it gave me a lot of time to think about different videos I could make, and then I didn't have to focus on worrying about the roads because I hate driving in the wintertime. I hate it. It scares me. I'm just so scared. But every year I get through it. But enough of me talking about, what's preventing me from making videos. Today I wanted to talk to you about blanketing your horse. I've had a couple of people ask about when is it a good time to consider blanketing your horse. And I think the best answer is to do your research and figure out if this is something that you really want to commit to. For me personally, I do blanket my horses in the winter on occasion. There's certain times when I will choose to put blankets on my horses. Just to give you a little bit of background, we live in eastern Colorado and it gets really cold and it gets really windy and sometimes we get a lot of snow. Those are the instances when I will put blankets on my horses. So my qualifiers for blanketing my horses are, is it wet? Is it cold, like below zero? Is it windy? Or are all three of those things happening at the same time? If any or all three of those things are happening, then I put blankets on my horses. Before I put a blanket on my horse, I make sure that they're groomed so I can look over and make sure they don't have any owies or anything. And then I only blanket my horses when my qualifiers have been met. Most of my qualifiers are usually met during the evening or overnight hours because that's when it gets the coldest. And it seems like that's when it snows a lot and that's when it's windy. If it's not during the winter, I don't put blankets on my horses. Sometimes in the springtime we get really heavy snows and then I will put like a rain sheet or something on them, but as a rule I don't typically blanket my horses, and they're definitely not blanketed 24/7 all winter long. And then when the weather's really bad, I will keep blankets on my horses. But as soon as the weather turns and it stops snowing, it's not windy or anything like that, the blankets come off. They don't live in them all winter long unless there is like a consistent snowstorm all winter long. My horses are not clipped. They have their full winter coats. And one thing I thought was interesting, I did a little bit of research on this, and your horse actually starts growing his winter coat in the summertime. He's preparing and getting ready for the winter, and it takes that long for their winter coat to get in, which I didn't know, which was interesting. But since my horses do have their long winter coats, there's a lot of times when I won't blanket them. The things to keep in mind if you're thinking about blanketing your horse, you need to think about your climate. Where do you live? You need to think about your horse, the age of your horse. Think about his winter coat. Does he have a winter coat? Or is he clipped? Your level of dedication to blanketing him. Do you plan on going out and taking the blanket off as soon as it's warm? Or is he going to be in that blanket all the time? These are all things to keep in mind if you're thinking about blanketing, because that can help determine if you need to have a blanket on your horse or not. But again, it's completely up to you. It's personal preference. So when you're thinking about blanketing your horse, there's so many different horse blankets to choose from, and these are some things that I think you should keep in mind when you're considering purchasing a blanket. And you want to think about the fill. The fill is how dense and how heavy that blanket is going to be, and it will keep them warmer. The higher the fill, the more warmth it's going to provide for your horse. So that's important to keep in mind. More importantly, you want to make sure that the blanket that you get is breathable, so that if your horse does get warm underneath that blanket, the layers of the fabric will breathe so he doesn't sweat to death under the blanket. Another consideration is you want your blanket to be windproof. You want the wind to stop once it hits the blanket so it doesn't go through the layers of the blanket, otherwise your horse could get cold. And something really important to keep in mind is and I don't know if I'm saying this right, is the denier of the fabric itself on the outer layer of the blanket. The higher the number, so if you'll have like a blanket that's 1280 or 1680D, that means it's like tighter woven, so it's a stronger blanket and it's a tougher blanket. I've seen some blankets that are like 600D, and then I've seen them all the way up. The one that Frisbee has right now is a 1680D because he is extremely hard on his blankets. So the higher the number of the denier, the stronger the blanket is going to be, and it will hopefully withstand your horse's playfulness. So if you choose to blanket your horse, do your research, make sure you get a really nice blanket that's going to last, because it's kind of frustrating to get a blanket and your horse doesn't like it and he tears it up. Frisbee is notorious for tearing up blankets. He's very hard on blankets, so he probably gets a new blanket every other year at least, and sometimes he gets a new blanket every year. And I have a very big collection of blankets that are waiting to be cannibalized, so I can use it to do something with the more recent blanket, so hopefully Frisbee will be able to stay protected during the winter. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again real soon.